"Mom is sick, I came in her place," says 6-year-old girl in job interview. Richard Miller glanced impatiently at the clock on his office wall. The last candidate for the night janitor position was over 20 minutes late, and he was about to cancel the interview when he heard small footsteps in the hallway. When the door opened, he expected to see a grown woman, but instead, a girl no older than 6 walked in, clutching a well-worn brown teddy bear. She wore a coral pink blouse that had seen better days, and her big dark eyes stared at him with a mix of fear and determination. "Good afternoon, sir," the child said in a shaky but determined voice. "I'm Emily. Mom is sick, so I came in her place." Richard was completely stunned. The receptionist appeared behind her, visibly flustered. "I'm sorry, Mr. Miller. I tried to explain she couldn't come in, but—" "It's fine, Jessica," he interrupted, not taking his eyes off the girl. "How you can go back to your desk." Emily approached the large wooden desk, nearly as big as her, and set a faded pink backpack on the floor. The teddy bear stayed firmly in her arms, as if it were her source of courage. "Mom said you were going to give her a chance to work here," the girl continued, looking straight at Richard. "She's had a fever for 3 days, but she didn't want to miss the interview, so I came to talk to you." The businessman leaned forward, both intrigued and moved by the situation. "And where is your mom now, Emily?" "At home, sleeping. Mrs. Margaret, our neighbor, is taking care of her. Mom fainted this morning when she tried to get up to come here." The child's words pierced Richard's heart. He'd seen a lot in his 42 years, but never anything like this. "You came here all by yourself?" "I took 2 buses," Emily replied proudly. "Mom taught me the way using the map she drew. She said it was really important not to miss this chance." The girl opened her backpack and pulled out a small notebook with yellowed pages. The sheets were filled with handwritten notes in careful script. "Mom wrote everything here. How to clean each kind of stain, what products to use, the hours she can work. She said you'd want to know these things." Richard took the notebook gently. The pages contained detailed cleaning instructions, available hours, and even a small drawing showing how to fold cleaning cloths properly. The care and dedication behind every line were unmistakable. "Your mom wrote all this?" "She always writes down important things," Emily nodded. "She says it helps her remember, and she taught me how to do some things too, in case she ever needed my help." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. To demonstrate, the girl asked permission and began folding the papers on Richard's desk, following the notebook's instructions exactly. Her tiny hands worked with precision as silent tears started rolling down her face. "Mum said if I came here and showed you that our family is hardworking, maybe you'd understand she wouldn't miss work," Emily whispered, trying to hold back her emotions. Richard felt a lump in his throat. In his 15 years running this commercial cleaning company, he'd never witnessed such dedication and desperation. "Emily, tell me something. Where do you live?" The girl hesitated for a moment, nervously fiddling with the teddy bear's ear. "In the South Bronx. We rent a room in Mrs. Betty's house. Mom works 3 jobs, but she said she needs a job with proper paperwork so I can stay in school." "And your father?" "I don't have a father," she answered simply, without drama. "It's always been just me and Mom." Richard closed the notebook and handed it back to Emily. That family story was affecting him in a way he couldn't explain. "What's your mother's name?" "Jennifer Wilson Taylor. She's 28 and has never missed a day of work in her life, except when I was born. That's what she told me to tell you." "And you, Emily? How old are you?" 6.5. I'll be 7 in November. Mom said, when I turn 7, maybe I can help her work on weekends so we can get a better place to live." The child's innocence contrasted sharply with the harsh reality she described. Richard stood up from his chair and walked around the desk. "Emily, can you take me to your home? I'd really like to meet your mother in person." The girl's eyes lit up with hope but quickly dimmed again. "Are you going to give her the job?" "First, I need to talk to her. Do you think she'd be upset if we showed up there?" Emily bit her lower lip, thoughtful. "She might be embarrassed. Our room is really tiny, and we don't have nice things like here in your office." That doesn't matter to me, Emily. Important people are important anywhere. The words touched the girl deeply, and she looked at him with growing admiration. Okay then. But do you promise you won't say anything bad about us to anyone? I promise. Richard held out his hand to her. Shall we? The bus ride to the South Bronx gave Richard time to reflect on his own life. It had been a long time since he'd stepped out of his successful executive bubble to see how most people really lived. Emily, sitting beside him, pointed out landmarks along the way and shared little stories about the neighborhood. That's where we buy bread. Mr. Frank always gives me candy when Mom buys something. And that's the school I go to. Teacher Amanda says I'm really good at math. Is that so? What else do you like to do? I like drawing and helping Mom. She teaches me letters when she gets home from work, even when she's really tired. She says education is the most important thing in the world. When they arrived at the house, Richard understood Emily's hesitation. It was a simple building on a narrow street, with several families sharing the same space. The room they rented was at the back, accessible through a side hallway. Mrs. Margaret, Emily called, knocking on one of the other family's doors. I brought Mom's boss to meet her. A woman around 60 appeared, drying her hands on her apron. Child, you scared me. And who's this young man? I'm Richard Miller. Emily brought me to meet her mother. Mrs. Margaret looked from Richard to Emily, clearly surprised. Jennifer's been asleep for about 2 hours. Her fever went down a little, but she's still very weak. May I see her? Richard asked. Of course. It's just, well, their room is very simple, you know. Emily led Richard down the narrow hallway to a door painted in faded blue. The room was indeed tiny, with a single bed, a small wardrobe, a plastic table that served as a desk, and a few personal items carefully arranged. Jennifer lay under a colorful quilt. Even weakened by fever, it was clear she was a young and beautiful woman with delicate features, much like her daughter's. Mom, Emily whispered, lightly touching her mother's arm. Mom, I brought the man from the interview to meet you. Jennifer opened her eyes slowly, still disoriented. When she noticed a stranger in the room, she tried to sit up quickly, but dizziness forced her back onto the bed. Easy, said Richard, stepping closer. I'm Richard Miller. Your daughter came to find me because you couldn't make it to the interview today. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears of shame and despair. Sir, I'm so sorry. I know I must have made a terrible impression, sending a child in my place. I really wanted to go, but you don't need to apologize, Richard interrupted gently. Your daughter was extraordinary. She showed me your notes and explained everything with a dedication I rarely see in adults. Jennifer looked at Emily, who smiled proudly. Emily, you shouldn't have bothered this gentleman. She didn't bother me at all, quite the opposite. I'm impressed by how you've raised her. Margaret, who had been watching from the doorway, spoke up. Richard, can I say something? This girl and her mother are the hardest working people I know. Jennifer works 7 days a week to give Emily a decent life. It's true, Jennifer confirmed, trying to sit up. I work at a bakery in the morning, a store in the afternoon, and clean offices at night. But none of the places will hire me officially. That's why I need this job so badly. Richard took a closer look at the room. Despite its extreme simplicity, everything was clean and tidy. A stack of books sat on the table. Emily's drawings were taped to the wall, and a small altar held a photo of an elderly woman. That's my mother, Jennifer explained, following Richard's gaze. She passed when Emily was 2. She used to help me take care of her. And you've raised your daughter alone since then? Yes, sir, it hasn't been easy, but Emily is my reason to keep fighting every day. Richard fell silent for a moment, processing everything he'd heard and seen. Jennifer, do you have any health issues that need medical attention? No, sir, I'm just exhausted. I worked very late last night and barely had breakfast this morning. When was the last time you had a checkup? Jennifer lowered her eyes, embarrassed. It's been a long time, sir. Those things are expensive, and I'd rather make sure Emily has everything she needs first. That confirmed Richard's suspicions. He pulled out his phone. I'll call my personal doctor. He can come check on you. No, sir, Jennifer protested. I can't accept that. I can't afford it. You won't pay a thing. It's a matter of basic decency. But I don't want charity, Jennifer said firmly, despite her weakness. If you want to help me, give me the chance to work and earn my keep with dignity. Richard admired her resolve but insisted, Jennifer, you clearly need medical care. How will you work in this condition? I'll recover, sir. I always do. I just need a little rest. Emily, who had been silently listening, moved closer to her mother. Mom, let him help. He seems like a good man. Emily, sweetheart, we can't owe favors to people. It only brings trouble. Richard realized he was dealing with a delicate matter of pride and dignity. He changed tactics. Jennifer, what if I offer you an advance on your salary? You work first, then pay the doctor with your own money. The suggestion made Jennifer's eyes shine with hope, but she still hesitated. You haven't even properly interviewed me yet. Your daughter already interviewed for you, and it was the best I've ever seen. Margaret, who had been listening to the whole conversation, chimed in again. Jennifer, just accept this young man's help. You need it, and someone offering help with good intentions shouldn't be turned away. After a few minutes of hesitation, Jennifer finally agreed. Richard called his personal doctor, Dr. Gregory, who promptly agreed to make a house call. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. While they waited for the doctor to arrive, Richard talked more with the family. He found out that Emily was in first grade and had excellent grades, that Jennifer had finished high school before getting pregnant, and that they both dreamed of one day owning their own home. Emily showed me the drawings she sells on the street, Richard commented. She shouldn't have told you that, Jennifer said, embarrassed. It's just a little thing she does on weekends. Mommy, he wasn't mad, Emily defended. He said he thought it was nice that I wanted to help. It's true, Jennifer. Your daughter has an incredible talent for drawing. Have you ever thought about enrolling her in a class? Sir, those things are for people who have money. We're just happy she can go to a good public school. Richard realized there was so much potential being wasted due to lack of opportunity. When the doctor arrived, he examined Jennifer carefully. She has early-stage pneumonia, Dr. Gregory diagnosed. Nothing serious if treated properly, but she needs complete rest for at least a week. A week? Jennifer panicked. Doctor, I can't just stop for a week. I'll lose all my jobs. Jennifer, if you don't rest now, you could end up hospitalized, the doctor warned. Your body is completely exhausted. Richard watched the woman's dilemma. She needed to work to survive, but she was too sick to work. It was a vicious cycle he knew well from other families' experiences. Doctor, what would be the ideal treatment? Antibiotics, complete rest, proper nutrition, and medical follow-up. Nothing complicated but essential. After the doctor left, leaving prescriptions and instructions, Richard was alone with the family again. Jennifer, I'll make you an offer. Will you agree to rest this week, follow the treatment exactly, and I'll guarantee you a job at my company starting next Monday? But sir, what about my other jobs? If I miss this whole week? How much do you earn each month, all jobs combined? Jennifer did a quick calculation and mentioned an amount that shocked Richard. It was less than half of what he'd pay a registered housekeeper. The salary at my company is double that, with full benefits. It's worth giving up those unstable jobs for something steady. The offer was too tempting to refuse, but Jennifer still had doubts. What if you change your mind? What if I don't do a good job? That won't happen. But if you're worried, we can put it in writing. Emily, who had been following the whole negotiation, tugged on Richard's sleeve. Sir, can I ask you something? Of course, Emily. Are you really a good person, or are you just pretending to impress Mommy? The child's blunt question surprised everyone. Richard crouched down to her level. Why do you ask that? Because other people have come before, promising to help Mommy, but then they disappeared when they saw where we lived. The answer revealed a painful, premature maturity. Richard understood this family had been let down before. Emily, I promise you I won't disappear. I can even give you my phone number so you can call me whenever you want. Really? Really? And do you know why? And do you know? Because when I was your age, I also needed help from good people. If they hadn't helped me, I wouldn't be where I am today. This revelation completely changed the atmosphere in the room. Jennifer looked at Richard with a different expression. You went through hardships too? Many. My mother raised me alone after my father left us. We lived in a neighborhood not much different from here. The difference is, I was lucky enough to find people who believed in my potential. Richard's personal story created an instant connection with the mother and daughter. It was as if he understood exactly what they were going through. That's why I recognize the value of what you have, he continued. Education, dignity, perseverance. These are things money can't buy. Jennifer finally relaxed and accepted the offer. Richard arranged for the medicine, left money for proper meals during the week of rest, and promised to return to check on her recovery. In the following days, he visited the family daily. Each visit revealed new details about their lives. He learned that Emily had taught herself to read at 4, that Jennifer sewed clothes late at night to make extra money, and that they shared an extraordinarily close and loving bond. "Mum, tell Mr. Richard about your plans," Emily said during one visit. "What plans, sweetheart?" "The ones you write in your little blue notebook before bed." Jennifer was embarrassed, but Richard showed genuine interest. "What kind of plans?" "They're silly," Jennifer murmured. "Just a working mum's dreams." "They're not silly," Emily insisted. "She wants to take a nursing course. She says it would help her care for more people and earn better so she can give me a better life." Richard was impressed by Jennifer's constructive ambition. "That's an excellent plan. Have you looked into where to take the course?" "Sir, that's for people with time and money. A single mom with a young daughter can't afford to dream too big." "Why not? Who said dreams have social limits?" The question made Jennifer pause. For years, she had convinced herself she had to accept a life limited by her circumstances. By the end of the week, Jennifer had fully recovered. Richard took her to see the company and sign the employment contract. Miller and Associates occupied 3 floors of a commercial building in Midtown Manhattan, providing cleaning services for several smaller businesses. "Wow, Mum, it's huge," Emily said, impressed by the facilities. "And this is where you'll be working," Richard replied. "Let me introduce you to the team." The reception from the other employees was mixed. Some were genuinely welcoming, while others were skeptical. Richard noticed the looks and decided to address it directly. "Everyone, Jennifer is our new employee. I expect you all to welcome her and help however she needs." Patricia, the cleaning supervisor with over 10 years of experience, approached Jennifer. "Welcome, dear. If you need anything, just ask." But not everyone was as receptive. Karen, one of the senior cleaners, whispered to a co-worker, "Did she get the job on her own merit, or is there something strange going on?" The comment didn't escape Richard, who decided to clarify things immediately. "Karen, I'd like to speak with you privately." In his office, Richard got straight to the point. "I noticed your reaction to Jennifer's hiring. Do you have any objections?" "No, sir. It's just, well, you've never brought an employee's family to visit before. People might get the wrong idea." "What kind of idea?" "You're single. She's a beautiful, unattached woman. People talk, you know." Richard understood the concern, but didn't appreciate the insinuating tone. "Karen, my personal life is my personal life, but I can assure you that Jennifer's hiring was based solely on professional criteria, and I hope that clears up any doubts." "Of course, sir. Sorry if I spoke out of turn." Despite the clarification, Richard realized the situation might spark unwanted gossip. He decided to be even more careful to protect Jennifer's reputation. In her first few days at work, Jennifer stood out for her efficiency and dedication. She always arrived 15 minutes early, completed her tasks flawlessly, and even helped her colleagues when needed. "She's a model employee," Patricia reported to Richard. "She's already reorganized the entire cleaning supplies inventory system. Everything runs much smoother now." Meanwhile, Emily had become a constant presence at the company on weekends when she accompanied her mother. Richard began noticing how the girl observed everything with intense curiosity. "Emily, what are you always looking at on the computer?" "I'm trying to understand how this machine works. At school, we don't have computers. Would you like me to teach you some basics?" The girl's eyes lit up with excitement. "Really? Can I?" The improvised weekend computer lessons became routine. Emily learned at an impressive speed and was soon browsing the internet and even helping with simple company tasks. "Mr. Richard, "Can I suggest something?" she asked one day. "Of course, go ahead." "You could make a website to show how well the company works. That way more people would want to hire you." The 6-year-old's digital marketing suggestion left Richard both surprised and amused. "That's an excellent idea, Emily. Do you want to help me make this website?" "Really? I can actually help?" The website project became an activity that brought Richard and Emily together. She sketched layouts by hand and he turned her ideas into digital reality. Jennifer watched with a mix of pride and concern. "Mr. Richard, I hope Emily isn't getting in the way of your work." "On the contrary, Jennifer. She has very creative ideas. In fact, I'm thinking of creating a special weekend program for employees' children." "How so?" "A space where kids can do homework, learn computer skills, and take part in educational activities. Many employees struggle to find weekend childcare." The idea excited Jennifer but also worried her. "Won't that be too much work? Every investment in people is worth it. Besides, I'm planning to expand the company. I need more skilled employees, and why not start by investing in the ones we already have?" Richard was genuinely planning to grow the business, but his time with Jennifer and Emily had shifted his perspective on corporate social responsibility. 3 months later, the company had grown significantly. The website created with Emily's help had attracted new clients, and operational efficiency had improved dramatically thanks to Jennifer's reorganizations. "Patricia, I need to talk to you about Jennifer," Richard said one day. "Any problems?" "No, quite the opposite. I'm considering promoting her to assistant supervisor. What do you think?" "I think she deserves it. She has great ideas and gets along well with the whole team, except Karen, but Karen never likes change anyway." "What's going on with Karen?" "Nothing serious, just little jokes here and there about Jennifer having special treatment, but the other girls have put her in her place a few times." Richard decided it was time for a more serious talk with Karen. She was spreading malicious comments that could harm both Jennifer and the team's harmony. "Karen, I need to speak with you again." "Of course, sir. I've become aware of some inappropriate comments about Jennifer. I want to make it clear that this kind of behavior will not be tolerated. Sir, I didn't say anything out of line. Any insinuation about favoritism or an inappropriate relationship is considered harassment. I expect this won't happen again." "All right, sir. But people talk because they find it strange how much attention you give one employee." "The attention I give any employee is based on professional merit. And if that bothers someone, perhaps they should rethink their attitude toward work." The conversation made it clear Karen was creating a toxic environment. Richard decided to transfer her to another department, away from direct contact with Jennifer. When he announced Jennifer's promotion to assistant supervisor, the team's reaction was mostly positive. She had earned her colleagues' respect through hard work and competence. "Congratulations, Jennifer," said Patricia, hugging the new supervisor. "You truly deserve this." "Thank you. I promise I'll do my best not to let anyone down." The promotion came with a significant raise, allowing Jennifer and Emily to move into a small but decent apartment in a better neighborhood. "Mommy, now I have my own room," Emily said excitedly, showing off the tiny space converted into her bedroom. "That's right, sweetheart. And look," Jennifer opened a drawer in their new dresser. "I managed to save some money for you to take that drawing class you wanted." "Really? I can take real art lessons?" "Yes." Teacher Amanda gave me the address of a good school nearby. The family's life had changed drastically in just a few months. Richard watched the transformation with satisfaction, but also growing concern. He was becoming emotionally involved with that family in a way he hadn't planned. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. One day, Emily arrived at the office in tears. "What happened, sweetheart?" Jennifer asked, worried. "At school, the girls said we only got a better life because you're dating your boss." Jennifer flushed with anger and shame. Richard, who had overheard, stepped closer. "Emily, who said that?" "Madison and Abigail. They said their mum told them that's how poor women get ahead in life." "And what did you say?" "I told them it wasn't true, that Mommy works really hard and is great at her job, but they laughed at me." Richard crouched down to speak to Emily at her level. "Listen to me. There will always be people who can't accept that others improve their lives through hard work. They make up lies because it's easier than admitting they might not be trying hard enough. But it hurt when they said that. I know it hurt. But you know it's not true. Your mum earned everything through dedication, and you should be proud of that. Despite his comforting words, Richard realized the situation was becoming delicate. The hurtful comments were affecting both Jennifer and Emily. That night, Jennifer went to Richard's office after hours. "We need to talk about what happened today with Emily. Among other things, Mr. Richard, I'm so grateful for everything you've done for us, but maybe it's better if I look for another job." "Why? Are you unhappy here?" "No, quite the opposite. But people are saying things that could harm your reputation and mine as well." Richard sighed deeply. He knew this conversation would come up eventually. "Jennifer, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Is there any truth to these rumors?" Jennifer looked him straight in the eye. "Not on my part. You've always been a respectful and fair boss. You've never done or said anything that could be seen as inappropriate. And not on my part either. My interest in you and Emily has always been genuinely supportive. Then why do people insist on making up these stories? Because it's easier to believe gossip than to admit someone can improve their life through their own merit." Jennifer stayed silent for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "Even so, maybe it's best if I step away. I don't want Emily growing up hearing nasty comments about her mother. And I don't want to lose an excellent employee over gossip. Let's handle this differently." "How?" "I'll make some changes at the company, establish clearer rules about relationships between employees and supervisors, set up channels for reporting harassment, and most importantly, I'll make it clear that malicious comments won't be tolerated." "You do all that just for us?" "I'd do it for any employee in this situation, but I'll admit, you two are special to me." Richard's honesty moved Jennifer deeply. "Why are we special?" "Because you reminded me of who I was before I became a successful businessman. You reminded me how important it is to help others and never forget where I came from." "And where did you come from?" Richard told Jennifer his whole story, how he grew up in the projects, how his mother took in laundry to support him, how a teacher believed in him and helped him get a scholarship, and how he built his company while always dreaming of giving back the help he'd received. "That's why I saw so much of myself in you," he concluded. "The struggle, the dignity, the determination to improve your lives without losing your values. I had no idea you'd been through all that. I don't usually talk about my past, but with you I feel like I can be myself." The conversation created a new closeness between them, built on mutual understanding and respect. "Jennifer, will you stay? I promise I'll handle the gossip." "I will. But on one condition." "What?" "I want our relationship to remain strictly professional. I don't want to give anyone room for speculation." "I completely agree." In the following months, Richard implemented several changes at the company. He created a code of conduct, set up direct channels for reporting issues, and held workshops on workplace respect. Gradually, the malicious comments faded. Emily, meanwhile, had adjusted well to her new school and was excelling in art classes. Her artistic talents were being nurtured, and she also showed promise in math and computer skills. "Mr. Richard, can I show you something?" she said during one of his weekend visits. "Of course, Emily." She showed him a detailed drawing of how she imagined the company could look in the future, bigger, more modern, with a dedicated space for children and people of all ages working together harmoniously. "What a beautiful drawing, Emily. Is this how you see our company? This is how I'd like it to be, a place where all families can work and be happy, no matter where they come from." The vision of a 6-year-old about social inclusion deeply impressed Richard. He decided to use her drawing as inspiration for a new expansion project. "Emily, would you give me permission to use your drawing as the basis for a real project?" "Really? My drawing could become real?" "With some adjustments, yes." The expansion project had become an obsession for Richard. He wanted to create something more than just a cleaning company. He aimed to build a socially responsible business model that offered real growth opportunities for people in vulnerable situations. Jennifer, now the general supervisor, became his main collaborator in developing the project. Together, they studied social enterprise models, researched vocational training programs, and designed a system that combined work, education, and personal development. "So, what do you think of this proposal?" Richard asked, showing the documents to Jennifer. "I think it's ambitious but achievable, and most importantly, I believe it will help many families like ours." "That's exactly what I want. How many Jennifers and Emilys are out there just needing an opportunity?" The project took shape over a year. The company moved to a larger space, created a vocational training center, partnered with technical schools, and implemented a family support program for employees with children. The grand opening of the new space was an emotional event. Emily, now 7 years old, gave a short speech about how important it was to give everyone opportunities. "My mom always said everyone deserves a chance," she said, holding the microphone with both hands. "And Mr. Richard gave us that chance. Now, all the children will have the same opportunity I had." The audience was visibly moved. Among the attendees were local journalists, company employees, families benefiting from the program, and neighborhood officials. The project's success caught the attention of the local media. A news segment about the company aired on TV, telling the story of how everything had started, with a 6-year-old girl going to a job interview in place of her sick mother. "It's amazing how what seemed like a hopeless situation turned into something so beautiful," the reporter commented during the broadcast. "The credit isn't mine," Richard replied. "It belongs to the courage of a child and the dignity of a mother who never gave up fighting." The report had a very positive impact, and the company received dozens of job applications from people in situations similar to Jennifer's past. But not everything was smooth sailing. Rapid growth brought new challenges. Some longtime employees resented the changes, management struggled with the increased workforce, and competitors began copying the model. "Richard, we need to talk about some issues," Jennifer said during a meeting. "What kind of issues?" "Some employees are complaining that you focus too much on the new hires and forget about those who've been here longer." "Is that a valid complaint?" "Partly, yes. Patricia, for example, has been with the company for 15 years and still earns less than people hired 6 months ago." Richard realized he had been so focused on helping vulnerable people that he had neglected to properly value long-time employees. "You're right. I'll review the company's entire salary policy." And there's something else. Karen is spreading rumors that this whole social project is just marketing, that you don't really care about people. Karen is still making negative comments? She's influencing others. She said once you get tired of playing the good guy, you'll fire everyone and turn this back into a regular company. Richard knew he had to address the situation once and for all. He couldn't let one person poison the entire work environment. The following week, he gathered all the employees for a frank conversation. "Team, I've heard some people have doubts about the company's direction and my motivations. I'd like to address everything openly." He shared his personal story with the entire team, explained how the company had grown, showed the financial numbers proving the sustainability of the social project, and answered all the employees' questions. "Does anyone have any doubts about my commitment to this company and to you?" he asked at the end of the presentation. Karen raised her hand. "I have a question. Why do new employees earn more than long-time ones?" "Good question. Starting next week, I'll implement an across-the-board adjustment based on tenure and performance. No one will be disadvantaged. And what if the company goes under with all these social expenses? The numbers I showed prove the project is profitable. Happy employees work better. A company with a good reputation attracts more clients, and social responsibility draws investors. It's a virtuous cycle." Richard's answers reassured most employees, but Karen remained skeptical. After the meeting, she sought out some colleagues to keep spreading doubt. "Did you really buy that pretty speech?" she said to a group during the break. "Rich men only help the poor when they have something to gain." "What would he gain?" asked a co-worker. "Maybe he's planning to run for office and is building his image." Patricia, who had overheard the conversation, spoke up. "Karen, why don't you find another job if you're so unhappy here?" "Because I've known this place for 10 years, and I know how things really work." "Things have changed, Karen, for the better. You just don't want to accept it." The discussion grew heated. dividing employees between those who supported the changes and those who preferred the old ways. Richard realized he had to make a tough decision. The next day, he called Karen in for a private talk. "Karen, I've noticed you're unhappy with the company's direction." "I'm not unhappy, just realistic." "What kind of realism? You can afford these charities now that the company's doing well, but if things get tight, you'll be the first to cut perks." "What if I guarantee that won't happen?" "How can you guarantee something like that?" Richard opened a drawer and pulled out a document. "This is my will. In it, I've stipulated that if I can no longer run the company someday, it must continue operating under the same social principles we've implemented." Karen was surprised by the revelation. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want you to understand my commitment is real and permanent, but also because I sense your presence here is becoming harmful to the work environment." "Are you firing me?" "I'm offering two options. First, you embrace the changes and stop creating division among the employees. Second, you accept a transfer to our new branch, where you can start fresh with a team that doesn't know your history of resistance." Karen stayed silent for several minutes, weighing her options. "And if I choose the transfer, will it be a punishment?" "No. It'll be a chance for a fresh start, with a pay raise since you'll have more responsibilities at the branch." The offer surprised Karen, who had expected punishment, not reward. "Why are you being so generous after everything I've said?" "Because I believe people can change when given the right opportunities, and because I'd rather invest in solutions than waste energy on problems." Karen accepted the transfer. Her departure significantly eased tensions in the company, and the atmosphere became harmonious again. Meanwhile, Emily continued to grow and thrive. By the age of 8, she already showed multiple talents. She drew with professional skill, had an exceptional ease with numbers, and displayed impressive emotional maturity. "Mr. Richard, can I talk to you?" she said one day. "Of course, Emily. What is it about?" "I want to give you some advice." "Advice? About what?" "About you and Mom." Richard was surprised by the girl's seriousness. "What do you want to tell me?" "I see how you look at each other, and I see how happy you both are when you're talking. But I also see that you don't do anything because you're afraid of what people will say." The observation of an 8-year-old about the relationship between adults left Richard speechless. "Emily, you like Mom, don't you?" "I like her as a person, as an employee, as a friend." "No, you like her the way a man likes a woman. I may be a kid, but I'm not dumb." Richard didn't know how to respond. The child had put into words something he himself had been trying to deny for months. "And what if I did? What would you think?" "I'd think it was great. You're a good person, you treat us well, and Mom deserves to be happy. Your mother is happy now." "She's happy as a mom and as a professional, but I see she gets sad sometimes when she thinks she won't have a partner in life." "She told you that?" "She doesn't have to. Mothers and daughters feel things about each other, and I feel she'd like to have someone special but doesn't want to risk ruining what we have here." The conversation with Emily made Richard reflect deeply on his feelings. It was true he had developed something very strong for Jennifer, but he had always suppressed those feelings, considering them inappropriate given their professional relationship. That night, he stayed late at the office, thinking about the situation. Jennifer came in for the nightly cleaning and found him still working. "Richard, are you okay? It's almost 11. "I'm fine, just thinking." "About something specific?" "About a lot of things, the company, the future, life." Jennifer noticed he was in an emotional state different from usual. "Do you want to talk? Sometimes it's good to share thoughts with someone." "Jennifer, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course. Have you ever thought about being with someone again?" The question caught Jennifer off guard, but she answered honestly. "Sometimes, yes, but it's complicated. I have a daughter to raise, a job I need to keep, a life that's finally stable. What if someone came along who respected all that? Someone who didn't want to change your life but just be part of it?" Jennifer looked at him with a different expression, as if finally understanding what he was trying to say. "It would depend on who that person was. What if it was someone you already know well, Someone who's already shown they care about you and Emily? Jennifer's heart raced. She had prepared for this conversation for months, but now that the moment had come, she didn't know how to react. Richard, are you talking about? I'm talking about my feelings for you. Feelings I tried to ignore for a long time, but Emily made me realize I can't deny them anymore. Emily? She had a very serious talk with me today. Said she notices how we look at each other and thinks we deserve to be happy. Jennifer smiled, moved. That girl is too smart. She is, and very wise too. She made me see that sometimes we deny ourselves happiness out of fear of complications that might not even exist. And what if they do? What if it complicates our professional relationship? Then we'll face the complications together, but if we don't try, we'll never know if it could work. Jennifer fell silent for a few moments, gathering her thoughts and emotions. Richard, I have feelings for you too, for a long time now. But I was always afraid of ruining everything we built. I understand your fear, but what we've built is too strong to be destroyed by a relationship. In fact, it might even get stronger. How so? Because it would be based on true love, mutual respect, and the desire to build something beautiful together. The conversation went on for over an hour. They talked about expectations, fears, plans for the future, and how to balance personal and professional lives in a healthy way. So, what do you think? Richard asked at the end of their talk. I think it's worth trying, but with a few conditions. What are they? First, we take it slow. Second, if it doesn't work out, we promise it won't affect our work. Third, Emily's opinion matters in our decisions because she's a fundamental part of my life. I agree to all your conditions. And there's one more thing. Go on. I want you to really know our story. Our true, complete story, without the parts I left out because I was ashamed. In the following months, Richard and Jennifer developed a gradual, mature relationship. They got to know each other deeply, sharing personal stories, dreams, and fears. Emily was actively involved, giving her thoughts and suggestions on how their new family should work. Their relationship became public at the company naturally and transparently. There was no scandal or gossip, because everyone could see it was genuine, built on solid values. Finally, Patricia said when she heard the news, it was obvious you two liked each other. I'm glad you made it official. The company kept growing and thriving. The social project became a model of success, drawing attention from business owners in other cities who wanted to replicate it. Emily, now 9, had become a little ambassador for the project, giving talks and sharing her story to inspire other kids. My story shows it doesn't matter where you're born or how your life starts, she'd say in her presentations. What matters is never giving up on your dreams and taking the opportunities that come your way. 2 years into their relationship, Richard proposed to Jennifer during a company party. He had planned everything with Emily's help, who insisted on being part of the surprise. Mum, I have a question for you, Emily said, getting everyone's attention at the party. What's your question, sweetheart? Would you marry Richard? Before Jennifer could answer, Richard appeared behind her with a ring in hand. That's actually my question, he said, kneeling down. Jennifer, will you marry me? The whole party was filled with emotion. Employees, families helped by the project, and even former competitors turned partners cheered when Jennifer said yes. Can I be the maid of honor? Emily asked, hugging them both. You'll be much more than that, Richard replied. You'll be my daughter. Really, can I call you Dad? If you want to, I'd be honored. The wedding took place 6 months later in a simple but touching ceremony. Emily was in charge of handing over the rings, wearing a dress she had helped pick out. Now we're a real family, she said during the toast. The honeymoon was a family trip to the beach, where Emily saw the ocean for the first time. Richard and Jennifer watched her play in the sand and made plans for the future. What do you think about having more kids? Richard asked. I think Emily would love siblings, but first I want to finish my business degree. Of course. Actually, I have an idea. What is it? How about you take over as the company's general manager after you graduate? I could dedicate myself more to the social projects, and you could handle the operational side. You'd trust the entire company to me. I'd trust my whole life to you." 5 years later, the company had become a national benchmark in corporate social responsibility. Jennifer, now with a degree in business administration, had taken over as general director and was implementing new inclusion projects. Emily, now 14, continued to excel in her studies and had further developed her artistic talents. She had created a program to teach drawing and computer skills to underprivileged children following her parents' example. "Dad, I have an idea," she said during a family dinner. "Let's hear it. What if we started our own foundation? That way, we could help more families and expand the project to other cities." "That's an excellent idea. What do you think, Mom?" "I think our daughter inherited the entrepreneurial spirit from both of you," Jennifer replied with a smile. The family had grown with the arrival of Ryan, now 2 years old, and they were expecting another baby. Their home had become a place filled with love, constructive discussions about business and social projects, and joint planning for the future. "Remember when I showed up at your office with my teddy bear?" Emily asked one day. "How could we forget?" Richard replied. "That was the day that changed our lives." "No, it was the day that changed many lives. Because if we hadn't met, none of this would have existed." "You're right," Jennifer agreed. An act of desperation turned into hope for hundreds of families. "And it all started because Mom was sick and I had the courage to go in her place." "And because you found someone willing to look beyond appearances," Richard added. The company continued to thrive and expand. The foundation was established and began serving families in 5 Brazilian states. Emily became an official consultant for the projects, despite still being underage, thanks to her unique experience and vision. On Emily's 15th birthday, the family organized a special celebration. Among the guests were current and former employees of the company, families who had benefited from their projects, local officials, and even Karen, who had become the branch manager and now fully supported the social initiatives. "I want to make a speech," Emily announced during the party. "Of course, sweetheart, it's your party." "Actually, it's not just mine. It's for our whole extended family," she gestured to everyone present. 9 years ago, I was a scared little girl who had to go to a job interview because my mom was sick. Today, I'm part of a family that turned that difficult moment into a lifelong mission." The guests listened in silence, moved by her words. "I've learned that no problem is too big to become an opportunity. No hardship is too great to turn into strength. And no person is undeserving of a chance at happiness. I've also learned that family isn't just about blood. Family is who chooses to stand by you, who believes in you even when you don't believe in yourself, and who helps you become the best version of yourself." Richard and Jennifer exchanged a proud glance, amazed by their daughter's maturity and wisdom. "That's why I want to thank my dad, Richard, who saw potential in us when everyone else saw only need. My mum, Jennifer, who taught me that dignity and humility can go hand in hand. And all of you, who've proven that a united community can turn dreams into reality." The party ended with a joyful gathering, but the family's story continued to unfold. Emily decided she wanted to study psychology to work in human development. Ryan began showing a talent for music, and the new baby, a girl named Lily, brought even more happiness into their lives. "Do you think Lily will enjoy participating in social projects when she grows up?" asked Emily. "I think each of our children will find their own way to contribute," replied Jennifer. "What matters is that they grow up knowing they have a social responsibility, and knowing they were deeply loved," added Richard. Years later, when Emily was in college, she wrote a book telling her family's story. The book became a bestseller and was adapted into a movie inspiring thousands of people across the country. During the book launch, a journalist asked her what the most important moment in the entire story had been. "It wasn't when my father hired my mother, or when they got married, or even when the company became famous," Emily answered. "It was when I realized I had a choice." "What do you mean?" "I could choose to stay home grieving that my mother was sick, or I could go after a solution. I chose to find a solution, and that choice didn't just change our lives, it changed the lives of many others." "And what's your message for people going through similar struggles?" "That no situation is impossible. There's only a lack of courage to seek solutions. And that true help doesn't humiliate, it uplifts. When someone extends a hand, it's not because you're beneath them. It's because they recognize your worth and want to see you shine. The interview resonated widely and sparked a national movement of business owners adopting models similar to Richard's company. The end. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story. Do you believe small gestures can truly transform lives? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know about your own experiences of overcoming challenges. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.